Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to explore what the Homo Aquaticus really is. Hidden in the darkest and most forgotten corners of horror and science fiction cinema lies a creature that inhabits not only the unfathomable depths of the ocean, but also the shadows of our collective memory. A monstrosity born from the fusion of ancient fear and science, pushed beyond its natural limits. Its name is as ancient and enigmatic as biblical legends, yet its existence is a manifestation of a modern, technological nightmare. We're talking about Homo Aquaticus, the entity known simply as the Leviathan. Although its cinematic appearance is limited to the film Leviathan, directed by George P. Cosmatos, this creature has been unjustly relegated to a dusty corner of the genre, overshadowed by more famous and marketable monsters. However, for those who dare to look beyond the shine of classic hits and popular figures, the Leviathan emerges as one of the most complex, disturbing, and deeply misunderstood monsters ever portrayed in underwater horror cinema. Unlike other beasts that draw their strength from myths and legends passed down orally, the Leviathan is not a product of folklore. It's the direct result of unrestrained scientific ambition. Its existence is the tangible consequence of an uncontrolled experiment, a project designed to create an unstoppable biological weapon that would change the rules of military engagement. To achieve this, a group of Soviet scientists turned to extremely potent, mutagenic chemical compounds capable of altering the DNA of any living organism, twisting its shape, function, and very nature. The laboratory where this experiment took place wasn't a typical land-based facility, but a submarine, a floating, airtight sarcophagus buried deep beneath the ocean. And as with every research project that turns into a catastrophe, the outcome was so disastrous that high-level Soviet officials made the drastic decision to deliberately sink the vessel along with its entire crew in hopes of forever silencing the horror they had unleashed, or so they thought. In the present-day timeline of the story, the Trioceanic Corporation launches a mining operation on the ocean floor, under the command of geologist Stephen Beck. During a routine mission, one of the station's divers stumbles upon the corroded and long-forgotten remains of that sunken Soviet submarine, lost to time and history. Inside the twisted, rust-covered hull, the team discovers a hermetically sealed safe containing medical records, an old videotape recorded by the original captain, and a still-sealed bottle of vodka. Driven more by curiosity than caution, two workers, Bowman and Sixpack, decide to drink the vodka, unaware that each sip is triggering a deadly and irreversible chain of events. As Dr. Glenn Thompson and Stephen Beck analyze the recovered data, they begin to piece things together. The original crew had suffered horrifying mutations, terrifying hallucinations, and a rapid physical deterioration. It doesn't take long for them to realize that the submarine's sinking wasn't an accident or a strategic loss. It was an intentional burial. The Soviet government hadn't lost that vessel. They buried it to conceal the abyss of horror it contained. Sixpack is the first to succumb to the infection. His skin erupts in oozing sores, and his condition deteriorates within hours. Thompson, aware of the panic this could cause among the crew, chooses to hide the severity of the situation. But it's already too late. Bowman also begins showing horrific symptoms. Her hair falls out in clumps. Her internal organs begin mutating and shifting. When she sees the grotesquely transformed body of Sixpack, she succumbs to terror and despair, and takes the tragic step of ending her own life. The bodies of both crew members, now stored in the infirmary, begin to fuse, not like decomposing corpses, but as if something alive and conscious is reconfiguring itself within them. From this fusion, a new creature emerges. A parasite, a predator, a spreading mutant that absorbs and takes what it needs from each body. This entity, a lethal, ever-changing amalgam, is the ultimate manifestation of the Leviathan. The crew decides to throw this abomination back into the ocean, believing they've destroyed it. But the damage has already been done. The creature splits, evolves, and adapts to its surroundings at a terrifying speed. Part of it returns and infiltrates the underwater facility, growing in size, aggression, and lethality. It now has tentacles that writhe in the dark, feeds on human blood, and consumes plasma as if it were vital fuel for its insatiable existence. The crew goes on full alert, while a furious storm rages on the surface, making any rescue or external aid impossible. They remain trapped, miles off the coast and hundreds of meters below sea level. Isolated, without reinforcements or any means of escape, Stephen Beck and Dr. Thompson attempt to lure the Leviathan using blood as bait, managing to temporarily lock it inside a sealed section of the complex. However, this victory is short-lived. Aware of the imminent and unknown danger posed by the mutant, the doctor makes a decision as drastic as it is desperate, fully conscious that there is no room for hesitation or half measures. He ejects all escape pods from the underwater base. His objective is as clear as it is brutal and beyond dispute: to ensure that no one attempts to flee that hellish place while carrying with them that indescribable creature, a threat that could unleash an even greater catastrophe outside the confines of the facility. The measure, though severe, seeks to contain the danger, to shut the door to horror before it spreads to the outside world. Meanwhile, Stephen Beck is racing against time and mounting uncertainty. From the command center, he urgently attempts to establish communication with the surface, seeking help, information, any sliver of hope that might ease their desperate situation. He asks about the weather conditions, the window for a possible rescue, any detail that could help them plan a safe escape. But the answer he receives is brutal, cold, and disheartening. A hurricane is battering the region with relentless force, making any rescue attempt impossible and condemning them to forced isolation in the ocean depths. The situation deteriorates at an alarming pace. Cobbs, one of the crew members, begins showing disturbing symptoms. His wounds not only refuse to heal, but evolve uncontrollably, taking on strange and painful shapes. His body starts mutating grotesquely, as if something inside him were fighting to redefine its very nature. In the midst of that palpable terror, and almost without realizing it, he manages to infect Dr. Thompson with the same living curse that's consuming him. However, the rest of the survivors barely manage to escape the mutant, retreating to a less exposed section of the facility, trying to regroup and devise a plan to survive. In this atmosphere of paranoia and fear, they attempt to access the base's computer system to retrieve updated weather data and look for any opportunity to escape. But the system mysteriously locks them out, denying access to vital information and increasing the overwhelming feeling that they've been abandoned. Then comes the most chilling discovery of all. The company they work for has officially registered the entire crew as deceased in an accident. There is no intention to rescue them, no intention to save human lives. This revelation is a dagger to the heart of the truth. The company's higher-ups are hiding a far darker and more sinister plan. They're more interested in recovering the mutagen and the creature itself than in protecting or rescuing their employees. All signs point to a hidden agenda to sell this biotechnology as a weapon on the black market, a dangerous commodity of immeasurable value to governments and clandestine organizations. It doesn't take long before the creature launches a violent and destructive attack on the base structure. The impact causes critical damage to the main systems, jeopardizing the stability of the entire complex. The violence of the massive explosion triggers a fire that threatens to turn the facility into a tomb for all those still inside. Forced to act quickly and without time to hesitate, the survivors suit up in diving gear and decide to abandon the installation as soon as possible, facing the open ocean as their only route of escape. The creature, far from being defeated, tries to intercept them with inhuman ferocity. However, Beck manages to activate the underwater lift just in time, triggering the collapse of a structure that temporarily crushes the monster, buying them precious seconds to get away and survive. When they finally emerge from the sea, the group is met with a surprisingly calm and sunny climate, a brutal contrast to the storm they were told about. This revelation confirms their worst suspicions. The company had deliberately lied about the hurricane, condemning them to fight alone. As they wait to be picked up by a Coast Guard helicopter, the calm proves to be only an illusion. Suddenly, the nightmare resurfaces in full force. The Leviathan reappears on the surface, attacking with savage and relentless violence. Jones, one of the crew members, confronts the monster with desperate bravery, ready to sacrifice himself to prevent the creature from reaching the coast and unleashing chaos on land. In that decisive moment, Beck seizes the opportunity to detonate a carefully placed explosive charge, destroying the Leviathan in a colossal explosion. Jones dies in the process, but his heroic act ensures the total annihilation of the threat. Thus ends the terrifying story of Homo Aquaticus, also known as the Leviathan, an entity created in the darkest depths of the ocean and finally destroyed at the surface, a monster born of science and human madness. But the story doesn't end there. Now it's time to dive into the complex biology, terrifying abilities, and visual design that brought this monstrous creature to life. Homo aquaticus is a semi-aquatic life form that arises through the absorption and transformation of human and animal organic matter. What makes this mutant being unique is its astonishing ability to integrate the tissues it consumes into its own structure, creating a grotesque and ever-changing amalgam made up of multiple species, a true abomination of nature and science. Throughout the film, its physical form constantly evolves, adapting to every new threat or circumstance. In its final manifestation, the Leviathan resembles an abyssal fish. It has large, yellow, glowing eyes that pierce the darkness, a lower jaw composed of exposed bones that resemble sharp knives, and skin so dark green it's nearly black. Its mouth is filled with long, sharp, needle-like fangs. Its torso is particularly disturbing and asymmetrical. It has 4 arms, 2 large and muscular, similar to those of a marine reptile, and 2 human-like arms protruding from its back and side. Below, it sports a twisted mix of tentacles and deformed human limbs, a hybridization that provokes both repulsion and fascination. Its back is covered in scaly spines jutting out like daggers, and from it emerges a long tail that likely helps stabilize and propel it swiftly through the water. Despite its chaotic physique and monstrous form, the creature faintly resembles a giant slug or snail, an image that adds a surreal and deeply unsettling quality. A particularly macabre detail is the unmoving human face embedded in its hump, with closed eyes, as if a victim remains trapped and condemned to eternal silence within the monster. The Leviathan's capabilities make it an almost unstoppable threat. It is armed with spiny tentacles, some of which have independent mouths capable of biting or absorbing organic tissue. Mere contact with these appendages can prove lethal to any living being. Its regenerative speed is astonishing. It can recover from severe wounds in a matter of minutes and fully assimilate any organism it touches, even adopting their biological traits. It is speculated that it may retain fragments of its victims' minds, though its behavior often appears clumsy and erratic, perhaps the result of constantly battling the identities it absorbs. Unlike other mutant creatures like the one in The Thing, the Leviathan cannot infect through invisible or incidental contact. It must physically wound its victim to initiate the mutagenic process, a brutal and rapid method that allows no chance for recovery. One of its most unsettling abilities is its power to create autonomous entities. Any severed limb can continue functioning independently, and may even give rise to new creatures. This property makes it doubly dangerous, as it can divide and propagate like an endless infection. As an amphibious being, it moves easily both in and out of the water, breathing effortlessly in both environments, which grants it a lethal advantage in mixed terrains. Despite all its strengths and abilities, the Leviathan is not invincible. It can be destroyed with powerful explosives, and it's presumed that a flamethrower could incapacitate it if it's burned thoroughly.